Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We are going back to that horrible world known as the JRC, but before we do, the usual disclaimers. All right, folks, I'm a little bit lazy today, kind of overworked, blah. It's been an interesting day. Let's just leave it there, right? So, before we get into it, I just wanted to pass on a little bit of news to you all that was passed on to me this morning within the Stop the Shock community. CC, who's always got their ear to the ground, managed to find out for us that the FDA, in spite of the fact that the JRC has lodged a lawsuit against them to try to get them to stop from reissuing the ban, in spite of that fact, they are reintroducing the rules in regards to the ban. I would hope to God they would simply make the very easy, simple change of naming the GED device, but unfortunately, they're not asking my opinion on the matter. But God, it would literally fix everything. Still, in spite of the fact that the JRC is trying to put pressure on a federal department, they are pushing forward anyways. In fact, they have opened up the website to comments just like they did circa 2014. So this would be something that's going to be interesting, and I'm definitely going to be keeping my eyes open and watching. Because as we know, when anyone defies the JRC, then the circus comes to goddamn town. All right? Just saying. I'm preparing myself mentally now. All right, folks. To the disclaimers. If you are unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, you're going to find all the pertinent links right there in the description box. Please, in particular, take note of the article written by NeuroClastic, a small non for profit started by autistics for autistics. In it, they interviewed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so called behavior modification program. The Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read that article so much. They threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. NeuroClastic has refused. You know the drill. Please read the article, share it on all your social media. Also included in there is NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding just in case the JRC actually does see through with their threat. Trigger warning 1. When we discuss places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center and Agape Boarding School for Boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of, excuse me, and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please go ahead and use the headphones. Trigger warning 2, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity on occasion and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and watching this, very obviously parental supervision is advised, alright? Okay, so where we left off the other day, all right? If shock recipients develop PTSD symptoms, they may be more severely impacted by future shocks because they could have heightened sensitivity to potential threats, including ones that are related to traumatic experience. In other words, let me put this in layman's terms. If you've already been through horrific abuse, okay? And then all of a sudden, the threat of more horrific abuse is on the horizon very clearly, such as being stuck with a device that's the equivalent of a human shock collar. More than likely, you're going to have an intensified response to that kind of abuse or even potential threat. You're going to be hyper aware and alert all the time. I'm going to tell you a little secret, folks. That never goes away. Even when you're not necessarily under an immediate threat. If you've gone through it, and it doesn't matter how long it's been or how long it's been since you've been under threat, any sudden sounds, any triggers, and you go 0 to 60 in a half a second, okay? This is self-explanatory here. You can cause a PTSD to become even worse than what it already is when you already have the diagnosis and you are continuing in the situation in which where the diagnosis is coming from. Okay? Let's move on, shall we? Symptom recurrence and intensification may occur in response to reminders of the original trauma, such as being forced to still wear the exact device that is causing at least some of the trauma in and of itself. Let's not talk about the food deprivation, sleep deprivation, and all the other crap these people get up to. Ongoing life stressors or newly experienced traumatic events, such as you got shocked on that device and now you're being denied supper because, well, you're just not being neurotypical enough, even when their definition of neurotypical enough essentially looks like one of those Jehovah's Witnesses door knockers. Just saying. Just saying. Reminders of past shocks, for example, seeing the staff members who administered the shocks or seeing others suffering the same trauma may contribute to re-traumatization. In other words, if this person has abused you and you are still seeing them every day, that is going to work to intensify the issues that come from PTSD, deepen and worsen the diagnosis. All right. It makes it even more poignant when you're still forced to wear the same device that, you know, this is a situation, how best to describe it? You go through something absolutely mind-bogglingly horrific, and you're still inside the situation. And although the forms of abuse are not identical to that first trauma, because it's ongoing and it looks like there is no escape, that's going to worsen and intensify the PTSD. Okay. Significantly, the ESD itself remains attached to the individual's body. What did we just say? Presenting a near constant reminder of past trauma as well as a threat of future and ongoing trauma, I might add. So the FDA believes there is a meaningful potential for re-traumatization subsequent to painful and traumatic stimuli such as shocks delivered by ESDs. Just simply forcing these kids to wear the device is a threat. If you don't understand that, I'm afraid I can't help you. The fact that they're like, but you can earn yourself off of it, but all you gotta do is pretend to be neurotypical. But there's one glaring, obvious problem with this so-called scenario. Well, there's multiple problems with that scenario, but just to begin with, number one, your concept medical model of what constitutes a neurotypical normie person is absolute, utter fantasized bullshit. Yeah, I said it. There is no such thing as normal. These people that you idolize and hold up as the ideal, that all us autistics, neurodivergents, and otherwise people who are outside of your freaking bubble are supposed to try to reach up to be are just as odd, weird, and strange as the rest of us. The only difference is their disturbing behavior has been passed off. It's been ignored. It's been trivialized. It's been accepted by society in spite of how abnormal said behavior is, such as the absolute sickening obsession with celebrities to the point that these poor individuals cannot set a single foot outside their door without a camera or phone being shoved in their face or immediately surrounded within about half a second of people. Okay? This isn't normal. Obsessing over celebrities, discussing their lives and who they should and should not be with, and all of that. None of that is normal behavior, but society has normalized this bizarre behavior. That's weird, hyper focused, near worship of celebrities. But as I say, I'm the bad guy because my focus happens to be more along the lines of the Punic Wars, Jerusalem, 1st century AD, ancient Egypt, Rome, Greece. I'm the weird one, not the weird person obsessing about a celebrity and actually thinking that they have a right to voice their opinion on a complete stranger's relationship. See what I mean? Okay. That's part of the problem, not just with the JRC, although they take it to a bizarre extreme, but with the medical model as a whole. Because the model that you put up for us on a pedestal to try to force us to create a mask to obtain is complete fiction. Okay? Or as I prefer to call it, it's a lie. Okay? The only difference between my weirdness and a neurotypical's weirdness is what the hyper-focused special interest is. Mine, because a lot of regular folk don't find that deep interest and love of history and can't wrap their brains around it, decide to alienate me for it. Not just the cruel school kids or teachers who grew up in podunk and are still in podunk, but also professionals as well who don't believe it's normal for a young kid to be studying the Punic Wars, but think nothing of a kid obsessing and trying to actually voice an opinion on a complete stranger's relationship because they happen to be in the media and be famous. Okay? Normalizing bizarre behavior like that to be acceptable society does not change the fact that it is bizarre behavior. Nor have I ever been able to wrap my brain around why my love of ancient history, myth, religion, what have you, why that is considered so bizarre and must be stamped out. But we encourage this absolute obsession with celebrity culture. Okay? I mentioned this even though it's a little bit off topic because it annoys the piss out of me that we are being forced to create a mask, and it's not even a mask entirely of our own creation. It is a mask based on what they are trying to force us to become. without realizing what they're trying to force us to become doesn't actually exist anywhere out there in the real world. Okay? Just to drop a little reality on some of you normies out there. You're not so normal. Okay? Now, as I was kind of going through all of this in regards to, well, if you just pretend to be neurotypical in a manner that is to our standards and approval, then we'll let you off the device. But if you act neurodivergent for 5 seconds, you show that troubling behaviors, we're going to slam you back on the device. Not exactly the argument that the JRC is trying to make it out to be, is it? That constant threat, whether you are forced to wear it on your body or not, it takes a psychological toll. We're going to go ahead and close out on that, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So, folks, you do know the drill. Please read that. Please hit the like button. Hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit the comments. I appreciate your time this afternoon. As always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea do hope you have a good one. I'll see you in a few seconds.